Welcome to Stand Up and Redo with Petra, the podcast where transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable. If you've ever felt stuck, weighed down by past choices, or like life's chapters have been written in ink, think again. Here, we believe every day is a fresh page, and you hold the pen. We're diving deep into real stories, bold insights, and life-shifting strategies to help you stand up, shake off the old, and rewrite your narrative with power and purpose. Ready to rise? Let's get started. Did you do it again? Did you lead with lust? Did you let that hot, lusty feeling just take over? All logic just went out the window. Well, listen to this podcast because you're going to relate to it. It's so simplistic, but so helpful. And I hope that you gain insight after you listen to it. My name is Petra, and I have a podcast called Stand Up and Redo. I am learning a lot about dating, relating to the three things that you move forward with when dating, which are your gut, that intuition, like, is this a good person for me to date? Does this person match up? On dating sites, they're looking for that. Is this your match? You have Match.com, and you have all these dating sites that try to align you with a person that is very similar to you. So your gut intuition when you meet someone is going to be like, is this person for me? Now, we did our episode on gut already. That was 2 weeks ago. And gut, the intuition. A lot of people leave behind. They don't have it at the starting line and they move forward and leave this intuition all the way in the back. And sometimes they don't even pull that intuition into the dating realm with a person until they're like 3 months in, 4 months in. Oh my gosh, they could even wait a year in. So don't do that. If you watched the first episode like 2 weeks ago that I talked to talk about gut and your intuition, it talks about having your gut right next to you. Then the second thing of the three is the heart, how you're going to react to these emotions and these feelings that you have, called love. That's when the Cupid's arrow strikes you right in the heart and you have no control. And you can tell me that you can control who you love. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You will love a person without even wanting to love them. Or you might not be able to love a person that you want to love, but you have to react a certain way with that. Well, the third one, really, it's lust, sex, physical attraction. It's that physical body response that if you haven't ever had it, it is an amazing feeling. So that's what this episode is all about. It's about the lusty feeling that you have. It could be a long time you have it. You can have it in a long-term relationship. You can have it initially. It can come and go in a relationship. And you can have lust without the other two. You can have lust and physical attraction without ever bringing your gut up in the process and without ever having love in the process. And I think that's the thing that people make a mistake about, how powerful physical attraction and lust are, in a good way and a bad way. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about lust, essentially, if we term it down, because I am a lady. So of course I'm talking from the perspective of lady parts. Hence why I titled my little theory, gut, heart, and lady parts. But think of your lady parts for any person. It's a man parts, your body parts. There's parts of your body that are just a physical response. So we're going to address three things in this episode. And those three things are first going to be basically when to bring the body parts in or when they come in or how they relate to a relationship, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to say it. Number one is, how does the physical lusty response play into a relationship? And maybe think about the way it plays into the relationship. And I'm going to try to do this from an objective point of view, which is actually what I have observed through the course of my dating life, or just my experience with other friends who have dated or other relationships. When you get to be 55 years old, you have been through a lot in relationships, whether it be friendships, romance, marriages, which is sad to say. You might have more than one marriage, not that you want one, but you might have more relationships. And there's just so much under my belt here that I know about just through my own experiences, but just through observation too. So that's what we're going to talk about first, is just how lust plays into a relationship. Then second, I want to bring this in because this is so crucial, how society influences it for a person. And as I've gotten older, it's funny, you'd think that I would know not to let society play in, but it does. I mean, the things that we hear, especially now that we have so much information just bombarded and thrown at us. And now, even when you're on your phone, if you even say one thing to a friend, your phone, your Alexa hears you, your computer, everything is listening to you now. So even my TV is like a smart TV. It can hear what I'm saying. So it's just crazy. It can actually like send you then advertisements or reels that are focused on what you're talking about. So you can get inundated with just this information. And now that I'm talking about this, I'm sure tonight, if I go on my reels, I'm going to get tons of stuff talking about lust and physical attraction, just because that's how our life is now in this advanced AI world, right? We're in an AI world, and we can try to hide from it, but guess what? You can't hide from it. You can't hide from it. If you can, you're living off the grid somewhere far away with absolutely zero technology. How can I handle this lust, this desire, this need for physical attraction and touch? How do I handle that? And I'm going to give you some advice, and just advice that has been gained through my observation and through time. Okay, so first, I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. There is this man, and he is falling in love with this woman, and they meet online, right? And they really do connect. Like, first off, physically, they both think that they're attractive. They like kind of the same music. They're searching for commonalities. Of course, they find some. They're both highly intelligent. There's a lot of things that they feel are a connection. Well, they meet. And this man is kind of innocent. He's desperate for love. He's desperate for physical connection because he's been in a relationship and he's broken up for like over a year now. And he's desperate for he hasn't had sex with another person or he hasn't had any kind of affection. And he's the kind of person that desires that. Well, this woman is just on a tear, and she is not looking for any kind of commitment. And she just physically is like, she likes sex and she wants it. And he innocently goes into this relationship and starts building it with this woman. And he's like, I really want to be exclusive. I want to be committed. I want to be in a relationship where I'm working towards, a forever person, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yes, I like that too. And yes, I want to be exclusive too. Well, they immediately just within maybe a month or two, however you want to think of it, they immediately start having sex. Well, one person thinks that this is a physical connection that is leading into something deeper. There is like a love from the man. He loves her. And she doesn't feel the same way. She's just enjoying the great sex. And in her mind, she even thinks, man, I just am liking sex. I don't really, as long as I can get this on my calendar, 3 times a week, blah, blah, blah. This is good for me. This is really good for me. I don't know if this is my forever person, but right now, this is just really hitting all my spots. And the guy's like, yeah, I might marry this woman someday. I'm really liking her. She's like someone that I just could see myself with. I'm really excited about strategizing a life together, enjoying this person just so much that this person, she's bringing me so much joy, right? Well, after a while, she's trying to figure out what she thinks about this guy. Does she like him? Maybe she doesn't. She really enjoys sex with him, and she really likes his company, and she has so much fun with him. And then after about a year goes in, one of her past relationships texts her, and she starts texting him back, and they start like flirting, and she thinks, okay, well, maybe I should break up with this other guy because I want to maybe I'll just dabble in this for a little while with this other guy. I'll have she's been faithful to the one guy, but she's not sure, and she's a little bit afraid of a commitment. So she decides to start texting other men, not just that one man that reached out to her, but all these men that she had in her past life. She thinks, well, maybe one of them, I can stir up something with him, and then I can see how I really feel about this guy who's like in love with me. And meanwhile, they did have a conversation. They decided to be exclusive, but she's decided that this might be not what she wants, because she's realizing he's really talking more about seriousness. He's giving her certain things, or he's hopeful that they can work towards together. Okay, let's say this. You can reverse the he and the she however you want. But for my story, the he is the one that gets his heart broken. And the she feels horrible that she broke his heart. But he finds out that she's been texting other men, and it breaks his heart. And she kind of just poo-poos it, but she doesn't want to lose him. So she says, I was bad. I made a mistake. I don't want to lose you. But yet she doesn't know why she doesn't want to lose him. It's really just for that intimacy, that physical connection that she has. And if he stopped having sex with her and said, I'm depressed, I'm having a hard time, boo-boo, has any kind of physical, she probably would leave him, sadly, because she didn't really love him and he really loved her. And that's a year in. So what happened there, when you really think about it, is that, and I'm trying to keep my he's and my she's straight so you remember who's who. Maybe I should have just named them. He has his heart broken, and he has a trauma break. I mean, he has a whole year to recover from this breakup from this person that he loved. Meanwhile, she moves on to other relationships quickly moves on, and he struggles more. Well, if you go back in time to when they first met and they had that lusty, connection where they did let all their body parts take over, if he had moved slower in that relationship, a lot slower with bringing the physical part of it in, say he didn't rush in a month or two and he just was like, I really want to be respectful of our relationship. I want to take this slow. And she's chomping at the bit, come on, are you serious? We can do this. We can just, we can do this. But meanwhile, he slows it down and is able to manage that. And it's hard for him because he wants it too. But he slows it down and he's like, you know what? Let's just really spend a lot more time. Let's date a little more. Maybe we should do some long day trips. Maybe we could even, do some just other activities together. We can start riding our bikes together more. Let's not bring sex into it right away. And, she's like, okay, let's try. And then she gets irritated because, a month or two's in and she really wants to have sex and she's still out and about and she falls into someone that still wants to fool around with her. And she ends up pivoting from that relationship, that dating relationship with that man who wanted to have a serious relationship with her and she wasn't ready. And it ends. And I think that is what we have to think about. That term, fools rush in. And if you both really talk about sex and what you think about it and how you think it plays in, and exclusivity, but exclusivity not just to have the word exclusivity for you to have sex right then, right now. Because I think a lot of people use that word exclusivity to mean, all right, let's be exclusive right now. And you could be my right now guy, or you can be my right now girl. But that doesn't mean exclusivity, meaning you're moving towards a meaningful relationship. So you really both have to understand what it is. And that's where pulling that gut in to help you along. And if a guy or a girl wants to have sex really fast, they can tell you or make you feel like you are so special. They can be love bombing you a little bit where they're just telling you good morning every day and good night every night, until they get what is moving forward. And then you might see them slow down a little bit if they don't get it. Or you might see that really that good morning and good night and that lust, that lot of attention on you for a few weeks or a few months was really just to move forward with getting sex. And then once they get it, they might pull back. But a real relationship that you're building, where you have a real connection with a person, where maybe you're to the point where you're talking on the phone every day. You're not just doing random texts every couple days. You're doing little phone calls every day, or you're even at least scheduling the next time you're going to see each other. Instead of just this date, nothing, and you think if you throw sex into it, it's going to take that nothing word and take it out of the sentence and make it so that there's something between you. No, that's not the case. Date, you start texting more. Date, you agree to talk once a week. Date, he checks in with you the next morning. Date, he gets excited something amazing happened in his life and he calls you out of the blue. Date, you start knowing more what your daily routines are. This is a person that really likes you. This is a person that is really into you. And you haven't pulled sex into it yet. but your gut is like, wow, this guy likes me. Take it back to where you go date, nothing for 2 weeks. Date, you're texting and he drops the text and doesn't talk to you for 3 days, but then gives you an excuse why he didn't respond to your question in a text. Maybe a date, maybe at that point you get smart, maybe you don't get smart. Either way, your gut is telling you something. If a person isn't responsive to you, or even doesn't just say, look, I am going to be busy this week. Can we touch base Saturday? They're courteous to your feelings as to how you're thinking about the relationship, or they're so excited to see you, but they know they have a busy week, but they're like, I really want to see you. I'm excited to see you again. Can we talk on Saturday FaceTime? But meanwhile, this week I'm going to be really busy. But if they just leave you hanging, but then you're going and still having sex with that person, you're jumping the gun. You're putting the lady parts, the man parts, the lust parts, the physical parts, before your gut has really evaluated the situation. And then who knows about love, And that's where every relationship is going to be different. Some people value sex to the point where they only want to have it with the person they're going to be with forever, their whole life. And a lot of things play into that: religion, promiscuity, like how you, even if you're worried about catching a disease, all these things play into it. And that's where your gut and your lady parts will kind of work in a symbiotic relationship where they're checking on each other, And I think sex for everybody, I can tell you what I think about sex in a relationship, but it won't be what you might think about sex in a relationship. I am a Christian woman, so I'm coming at it as a perspective that I struggle with it probably more than most people because I want it. But then I have this guilt factor that comes into play with me, big guilt. And then I maybe go a little too far and then I pull back and I think, oh my goodness, I shouldn't do that. I'm a Christian. So with another person who has like a more open view on sex, might really know that, hey, after the third date, I have sex. And that's when I decide if I'm going to move forward. Or they might think sex is so important that they put it into play right away just to see if they would like it or not. But the thing is, when you do that, you have to think about what the other person's thinking in their head. If you're like loose with sex and you're okay with sex before you've had commitment or make sure that person knows that you don't think sex is an advancement in being connected with that person. Make sure they know that sex is sex and sex is not any kind of like moving forward in the relationship. Because that story I told you about the man and the woman together for a year, he was thinking that meant, we're going to work towards living together. We're going to work towards being in a long-term relationship. This might be my forever person that I'm going to die with, that I'm going to go support when they have medical procedures as they age, that I'm going to be with forever. And meanwhile, that other person might think of that we're still just dating and trying to figure each other out. Even though I told him I'm exclusive, I still don't know. I still don't know how I feel about him. So realistically, I think what you have to do is just be very honest about everything early on. And people are afraid. I mean, maybe not date one or date two. You might really want to just see if you like the person, because what's the point? You don't have to get all serious if you don't really like the person that much. And you're just trying to see, you're having that coffee and that dinner date, or maybe that tennis game or that bike ride or that hike in the woods. You don't have to necessarily get serious at that point. But at that point, when you're thinking that you like that person and you're like, wow, I want to keep seeing this person. Whenever that point is, that you're at that point, and I usually say I have a strategy, and I shouldn't tell people my strategy, but by the third date, you usually kind of know. I think if you know, if your gut's telling you, third date, come here, gut, is this really a person? Even if by the third date, it might be a person that you love, and you're like, this is a person I think I could love. But then you have to think beyond love. You have to think of a lot of things. You have to think about financial security. You have to think about religious beliefs. You have to think about habits or that they might have, or you have to think about politics. I mean, those things. And when I said there's the three things, gut, heart, lady parts, there's little bullet points underneath. So the gut part might override the love part. If you take that quote, love conquers all, and you take it out, because trust me, love doesn't conquer all. At least it doesn't conquer marriage forever, because I do think people that get divorced do love each other. But I also think there's more to love, because if you listen to my love podcast, you realize what love really is. Love can be projected or hit you for a friend, can hit you for multiple people, not just a lover. And it can even hit you for a male friend, that if you're a woman or if you're a man, you might have a female friend that you love, but it doesn't mean you act on it. So the gut I don't want to confuse you too much, but I think you get my point. Gut and heart, lust and physical attraction have to work in a symbiotic relationship with intuition and logic. Okay? Intuition and logic are gut, lust and physical attraction are those lady parts. So let's go to point number 2. I talked about point number 1, which was basically explaining my theory on what gut, heart, and lady parts are, and how lady parts play in. And love is kind of the wild card. I mean, you're going to work hopefully symbiotic relationship with gut, lady parts, and love or heart. But honestly, love is the thing that is a blessing. And you might want to love someone so much, but you just can't force it. Or you might not want to love someone so much and you do love them, but you can't force it. Love is the wild card, but that's in a whole nother episode back there. So go listen to that one about love, because I want to talk about lady parts right now, or lust or physical attraction. And I want to talk about societal pressures. I want to talk about 2 movies that I absolutely love. And they are When Harry Met Sally and this other movie with Ashton Kutcher and Amanda Peet called A Lot Like Love. If you haven't watched A Lot Like Love, this is like a perfect example of all these things of lust, body parts, and then your heart, love, and your gut, intuition all coming in, because this couple, kind of like Harry Met Sally, go through a long-term relationship over years where they become friends, and they're both a man and a woman, and they become friends over time, and certain things have played in to the friendship. And at the end, of course, of both movies, spoiler alert, both couples decide to be together, which is amazing, especially A Lot Like Love. Oh my gosh, that movie, I could almost watch it once a week. It is so good. But what I want to share with you is when Harry Met Sally, the Billy Crystal character, Harry, he makes a comment, and I can't quote it exactly, but he says that women and men cannot be friends because I guess sex, is going to come into it somehow, some way. Sex is in the middle of it or in the way, or he doesn't say it like that, but he says that men and women can't be friends because of sex. So I feel completely different. I truly feel like a man and a woman can be friends, but you have to choose how you're going to deal with that friendship. And just like dating, you can date someone and want to bring sex into it so bad and know that you desperately want it, but just pull back, reel it in, and hold it tight to you, that physical lusty feeling. Try so hard not to give into it, because it'll skew the relationship. And this is my opinion. I forgot to give you my disclaimer. My disclaimer is that everything I'm saying is my opinion. This is not advice from a professional. This is Petra's wisdom over time. And my opinion is, don't get the sex in there right away before the gut and the love. Because if you do, it's going to skew things. You're going to desire to be with that person so much intimately that it's really, you haven't had that talk with that person maybe, or both of you are thinking differently. And realistically, or maybe you both decided that you both wanted to have sex at the cost of not worrying about a relationship because you're both really busy, and one of your mindset changes and one of you starts to feel like you might start loving the other person. And you need to tell them that. And you need to say, look, I know I came into this thinking this was all about sex, and we were just like going to have this, you're going to be my sex partner, which I don't want to condone that just because I don't feel like that's healthy, but people do that. But at this one point when it changes with one person, that person has to say, hey, wait a minute. I'm starting to like you a little bit more. I want a little more connection to that other person, because it's only fair, because if that person's thinking you're in it just for sex and you change, you need to tell them too, because you don't want to then talk bad about that person later, which is what I think a lot of us do. We end up being like, well, he broke my heart because he didn't love me back. But realistically, in the beginning of the relationship, maybe you both talked about it was just going to be this way, and then it changed. So societal pressures are that, just what I said. Everybody has a different idea of what a relationship should be. And if you're not looking long term, you have to talk about what your goal is with that relationship as you venture in. And that is really crucial. Like, I am dating. I actually don't want to date, but when I do date, I try to tell the person that I don't want to be a right now girl with a person. I want to pursue a person that's going to be my forever person. And if we're not interested in moving on forever, that's fine. But we just need to end it right away, because my goal is not to just be that right now girl. And that's why if I'm dating someone, I like to end it fairly quickly if I feel like my gut gets in there a little bit. I don't like to drag a guy along. And a guy, and I'm not saying that I'm like the one that's always in charge of the relationship. Like, okay, let me decide about the relationship, because the man decides too, and the man decides. Sometimes I know they always say that the lack of a response when you ask a person a question, a man or if there's no response, that's pretty much your answer. If you're looking for an answer and you ask a question and the person's response is no response, that's the answer to your question, right? And that's what we in relationships don't see. If the person is like, you're hot and heavy and excited and you're bantering back and forth, and then they just cut you off for a while, that's your response that person really might not be into you much. It really is. Because I think if you're really into someone, you're going to be so excited that you're moving forward in the relationship that I don't think you're going to put that person to the side for a while. You're going to be like, yeah, this is a high level person and I really like them and I don't want to let them go. Anyway, I think I went on a little sidebar there because I was talking about societal pressures, and I talked about when Harry met Sally and friendships. And I do feel differently. I do feel like, if you are in a friendship with a man and you're falling in love with him and you're a woman and you value that friendship and you can have that friendship, but it's not like you're going to sleep in the same hotel room or like go watch a late night movie with him. If you feel like you really are loving him, just pull your love back and love him from afar and be his friend in a way that is appropriate. I wanted to just share that with you too, because that's where you'll keep sex out of the way in a relationship that's a friendship. Like when Harry met Sally. Both of them kept the lust part under control for a long time because they valued the friendship so much. And the timing wasn't right? The timing wasn't right. And they didn't do things that would have destroyed their relationships in the past. They both had other relationships and they were respectful of that. Because honestly, as you can see, that couple truly loved each other. And then the same thing as you watch A Lot Like Love, I feel like Ashton Kutcher, forgive me, I know I said his name wrong. I know I said it wrong. The two characters in A Lot Like Love, I can say Amanda Peet and Ashton, fall in love by the end. But through the course of their friendship, through the course of the movie, they respect each other enough to know the timing isn't right for them to be together. And when they are together, it's just, you're so excited. You're like, oh, this is amazing. You have to watch that movie. So anyway, that's one of my favorite movies, I guess. But what I wanted to share with you were societal pressures. I was reeling the other morning and Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, popped up. And it was a reel, so it was only a couple seconds. And I stopped because I'm like, who is that? First, I recognized her as someone. She was really pretty. She was dressed beautifully. And she made a comment about dating. And she was like, she's all, how she's like, I'm Erica. And she's like explaining in detail about women and dating. And she's talking about, to Christian women or to women, what her perception as a Christian woman is that, date. And I'm not quoting her exactly again, but she says, and your dating is dating and your husband is your husband. And I liked what she said. What she said was pretty powerful and was strong. And I was like, wow, she's right. She's really right. Like, you can't just, every man that you date, think he's your husband. I mean, come on, you're dating the guy. You're trying to figure it out, right? And it was interesting because I was like, oh yeah, I like what she's saying. It's really good. And then the woman that was interviewing her just turned and she said to like young women, basically, because this is like, obviously she's talking to young women. She's a young woman herself, I'm sure. But the woman that was interviewing her, who I'm sure was a famous person who I didn't recognize, she says, and don't be a slut, out to the camera. Basically, what are we doing to our young people? Like, seriously? I couldn't believe she said that. It devalued and took away all that I had gained from Erica. And it just, what do we do as women? Like, how dare we call a person a slut? And I feel like I'm 54, and I have a hard time with sex. I have a hard time not having sex or wanting to have sex. And it's hard for me when I meet someone. It's very physical. I'm very physical. And I won't talk about that much. But what I'll say is that a young teenager struggling with trying to not be promiscuous or feeling uncomfortable with their body, or who has been in a relationship with a sexual relationship with a guy, is just going to hide it more and keep it under wraps, because here's this woman saying you're a slut, essentially. And that word, I remember when my little girls were young, they were being babysat by a couple who was wonderful. This couple was really kind to me through time. They really did help me with my children. There were certain things that I didn't align with the way that okay, I'll give you this example about a slut. My girls were at McDonald's with the father, and they were eating a McDonald's meal, and they were sitting in the McDonald's restaurant. And the man, there was a pamphlet. There was like a pamphlet, the freestanding pamphlets with Paris Hilton on it. And she's in a bikini on a car, like, here I am, Paris Hilton, sexy. And he called her a slut. And then he called her other names too, because my kids told me, they said, Mom, you wouldn't believe what happened at McDonald's. Well, they didn't say it like that. But you wouldn't believe what happened at McDonald's today. They said, Mom, they told me what happened at McDonald's. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, he called her all these names. And the girls, I could tell that bothered them, that he said those names first to a woman. I could tell it bothered them. And then they said he proceeded to walk around McDonald's and grab all the pamphlets that were on every single table and throw them in the trash. So I said to my girls, I said, well, what did you feel about that? So this is a good opportunity for us to talk about this. They said, of course it upset them. And I said, well, no man should ever call any woman a slut. And I don't want to I don't want to side with men or women in this and act like, men are bad or women are bad. But I just want to say that I do feel like there is a double standard with how a woman is made to feel like a slut if she's had multiple sexual partners or if she's gotten herself in a situation. I remember in high school on the bus one day, I was listening to all these guys talk. I was like probably really young. I think I was like 14 or 15. And they were talking about some girl that was at a party and they were laughing about the fact that she had sex with like a whole bunch of guys one night at a party and she was really drunk. And I know that I was just so embarrassed for her, but I also felt so sad for her because they're just talking about how she's kind of like a slut and like she's easy and just, I feel like women, and then I wanted to just stand up on that bus. And this is when I was young and naive and just say it to all those men, all those boys, those young boys. And what about you? What about you? Or what about you? All these guys that were the ones having sex with her. Like, are you not a slut? Like, you're even worse. Getting this and that, taking it back to that reel with Erica and the way she was explaining about, holding it together, not having sex before marriage or whatever. And then that other woman that just piped in and called girls a slut. I know for me as a young girl, there were a lot of things that I held back from even talking about with my mother or maybe with a person that was older, sex related, because I felt afraid I would be pegged as a slut. And I think that's where society has to change the way that we view people. Like, I feel like if a young woman or man is in a situation where they want to talk about sex openly, I feel like they should be able to. And I feel like they should be able to without feeling like they're a horrible person. Because sex is a beautiful thing. It is a really amazing, there's a reason that God gave us sex, right? It feels good. And there's a reason that it feels good. I don't think it was just this evil thing that God did to us just to make us suffer. So I guess societal pressures, this could be a really deep discussion. And I'm not on dating sites. A lot of people don't put their real pictures up either. They just put I think there's this Facebook life and there's your real life. Me and my brother always say, it's your Facebook life. Because realistically, I don't put my bad pictures up on Facebook. I use my pictures on Facebook to journal. And if there's a bad picture of me, trust me, I'm not putting it up. I put the pretty pictures up. So same thing with dating apps. You're going to have these amazing looking people on the dating apps. And when you go on there, you're like, wow. And you're almost like mortified because you're like, they all look so good. Well, that's not true. The girls look good on the dating apps. The guys sometimes take these horrible pictures of themselves, like with the camera, their double chin. They don't get it. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did they put that picture of themselves up? But the dating apps only portray a visual of a person. And it's so sad because there's probably a lot of high level, amazing people on there that just because they don't look good, we swipe right past them. That's why I don't like them, because I could be missing out. If I'm on a dating app, I could miss out on an amazing guy because I'm so focused on the good looking ones. And I can guarantee the good looking ones get a lot of attention. And then they also do fall into that trap of they have a lot of options and then they're going to choose a person that might not be right for them just based on looks. But what I want to talk about is societal pressures from like all these podcasts and YouTube like me. Here I am giving you advice and I'm nobody. But I get a lot of advice from a lot of people I really like Jay Shetty. Sometimes I listen to Dr. Peterson, of course, Mel Robbins and Matthew Hussey. Oh my gosh. And then this guy, Stefan. I love listening to their, dating advice. But I actually have to not listen to it because it gets overwhelming and there's just so much and it's so much to listen to. But, you have to figure out for yourself how you're going to move forward with dating. I think society tells you certain things like if you use these 3 words, you'll have the guy forever. If you do this, he'll want you more. It's like if this happens, then this is going to be the outcome. It's almost like you're trying to trap a person into liking you. I'm like, well, what about if I say these 3 things to this guy in the beginning and it's like he's all into me, but then how long can you not be yourself? How long can you present yourself in a way that is just to trap a person? I think that that's what I mean about society. I think I talked about a lot. I talked about societal pressures. I talked about just things that I've noticed through the course of years with pressures and Christianity. So the third thing I want to talk about as a Christian woman, and I'm going to be very, very transparent to the point where I'm nervous about this part of the conversation, very nervous because I am a Christian. But I'm going to give you some advice basically on how to handle. I'm not the best at it. I'll say that. I've made some mistakes. But I'm trying to turn around and I'm trying to approach this whole dating thing with caution and grace. And I'm going to actually attach sites that are from LCBC, the church I go to. And I haven't even listened to them all yet, but they have some great, when you just go right to their website, they have some great speakers on how to avoid temptation and things like that. And I think it would help. For me, I'm going to pull Christ in and dear God, you're going to help me when I date, really to hone in on controlling myself physically and trying to reel it back and just trying to hold out for a person who, I feel like could be my forever person. And it's hard. It's really hard. And what I'm going to do is, that's probably why I'm not going to date because it's so stressful. I'll date occasionally, but I'm not going to seek it out. I'm just going to sit on focusing on not dating. The other thing I have is a little tip. My friends I've watched date through the years did this thing where it was really neat. They would exhaust themselves dating, like maybe say, okay, from January to March, I'm going to date. And they would go all in on the dating apps and they'd go all in on seeking out dates with different people. And they'd do it for like 3 months at a time. And my one friend had this 3-date rule. And I really like the 3-date rule. And I think it would help you too with controlling those lusty parts. To think I am not going to, at the 3rd date, if my gut knows that this isn't a person that I want to be with forever, and but the 3rd date, I feel like you're really going to figure it out and then just end it at that point. Because I think what we do is we hold on to a person that we're like, I'm not really sure. Maybe if you're really like that on the 3rd date, how is it going to be any better as time goes on? I mean, you could extend it and the 3rd date rule might not be so strict. You could extend it a little longer. But the point of extending a relationship with someone that you know that might not be for every person isn't fair for them or you. So I think to control the lusty, desperate, I'm going to have, is that I do think anything after midnight is dangerous. I remember my grandmom, I think it was my grandmom, she had 15 children. One of the things she said was anything after midnight, it's dangerous. So I feel like getting back to your bed in your bed alone at midnight is a good call. I do feel like keeping yourself in a situation where it's not easy to have that opportunity to make out is good. I feel like I'm talking like a child here because you're all grown. A lot of you are grown-ups. A lot of you are in your 50s. But I do think the 3rd date rule is a good rule. I think that will help you because you can go in and be like 4 or 5 dates in, and that gives you more opportunity to be alone with a person and get really physical with a person. But if your gut is thinking, well, maybe if I have sex with this person, or maybe if I let myself be free with them and make out with them, I'll find out if I really like them. Don't do that. Because if you're questioning whether you like that person, having sex with them isn't going to make you like them anymore. Because you can have really great sex with a person who you don't love, or even a person who you don't even know how much you align. sex can happen and it can be amazing with a person that you don't love and with a person you're not connected with. So I guess I'm beating a dead horse here by going around and around. But what I want to say is when you go into a relationship, let the symbiotic purpose happen with your gut or your intuition and your lady parts or your lust and physical attraction. What I mean is let your gut override this part. If this part is out of control, let your gut say, okay, is this a person that in 6 months I want to go on a sailboat trip for a week and be alone with in a sailboat for 1 week? Is this a person I want to be deserted on an island with? No, then don't have sex with them. Don't have sex with them. That's what I mean about the symbiotic relationship. And it kind of sounds comical and funny, but it's true. Think of it that way. Love, I do believe, is the wild card. Love is a thing that you might have this hot, lusty feeling for a person, and they might match you perfectly. But sadly, you might not fall in love with them, and that might frustrate the heck out of you. But you might need to end that relationship because love is the wild card. Darn love. Darn it. Love is that wild card. And then I think that's why I say when you start with the gut and let that be first, and then see how love plays in. And sadly, you might have to give yourself ultimatums, like give yourself time that if you feel so good about this person, but the love part is the part that's not coming into play. And don't stay with that person. It's not fair for them. Don't stay with them. That's so unfair for that person. So my stand up and redo is to cool it down with my physical attraction to people. And if I'm dating someone, that's the part I actually get really excited about and I want to throw into the ring right away. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let the symbiotic relationship with my intuition and gut work. Yeah. And it's easy for some people to say that you can do it. There's people that have been married for 30, 50 years and they tell you, oh yeah, you can control it. And there's people that are extremely just don't even desire sex that can tell you you can do it. But there's people like me and like you who struggle with it. And I'm with you on this. I'm really with you on struggling with the physical part of it. But like I said, I'm going to let that symbiotic thing come in with the gut and the heart. The heart's going to be the wild card, the up and down and when is it coming in. But the gut and the lady parts or the lust. And I'm going to let it play together. And I'm going to let the gut or my intuition override my physical lust. And I'm going to ask for some help from that guy up there, God to help me. And I have a good relationship with him, I do believe. And I do believe he's going to help me with this. So that is my stand up and redo. And thank you. Hi there. This is a pretty big disclaimer for you. I have to share that the characters in this podcast have been made up. They're fictional, made for the podcast. And also, I have to share with you that I am not a professional. If you're seeking professional advice, reach out to a counselor or maybe someone from your church that's more knowledgeable than what I am. And I also have to share that in addition to gut, hearts, and lady parts, there's that faith part. There's Christ. And if you have a faith in God or a particular religious belief, don't let that stay out of the relationship. Keep that in because you don't want to get far in with a person that you're unequally yoked with. You want to be with a person who loves God like you do. And then lastly, I refer back to my love podcast and my gut podcast. I deleted those because they got a little too personal. So if there is a huge interest in this particular podcast and I see a whole bunch of hits, I will remake a podcast about love. And I will remake a podcast about gut because my theory really stands. But I just got a little too personal and I was a little too emotional in those first two. So if I ever do make them up again, it would be from a very, very logical, calm place where I am not speaking from emotion. But this one was really good. This truly is, I feel like, a valuable podcast about lust. And I do not want to discount Christ in it. So that's why I did this little blurb at the end. And I also had to do my disclaimer because I'm not a professional. So seek professional advice if you need it. And thank you very much. Hi, I'd like to give credit to Sarah Gephardt for the cover page of this podcast. This podcast is a work based on the personal experiences, reflections, and memories of the speaker. The events described are true to the best of the speaker's knowledge and recollection. Some names, locations, identifying characteristics, and timelines have been changed or altered to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. In some cases, composite characters have been created or dialogue has been reconstructed based on memory. The intention of this podcast is not to defame, malign, or harm any individual or entity. Rather, it is to share the speaker's journey with honesty, vulnerability, and integrity. Any opinions expressed are solely those of the speaker and are not intended as statements of fact regarding any person, group, or organization. Listeners should keep in mind that human memory is inherently subjective and selective, and while every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, this podcast reflects the speaker's perspective and truth. Thank you.